name's Edward Ingram. I'm the author of this book. It's called How to End the World's Financial Chaos. What it means basically is that this is the first time in world's history that an engineer has designed a whole economy, an entire economy. And I want to tell you how it's done. I also want you to buy the book. It's on sale from current week at ZITF and at the shops in Zimbabwe, Amazon and Kindle. If not now, very soon. You can place your orders with shops or wait till it's available. Now, here's a picture of an economy. What it does. It destroys businesses. It destroys family homes. It takes shops away. You all know that because it's unstable. It's not your fault that you've lost your home. It's the economy's fault. It's the design is wrong. So we're designing an economy for stability, so that doesn't happen, for maximum efficiency, and for the best use of all the national resources. That means unemployed people get jobs, we hope, and every other resource like steel and gold and farming and everything. And then we want to ensure that because of the financial stability, your wealth stays with you and it doesn't fall down here and go upstairs to somebody who can buy it for dirt cheap money. And we don't want them to be able to say, oh, everything's very volatile. Let's buy when it's cheap and sell when it's dear. And they're buying you from you or your pension fund, and your pension fund is not performing the way it should because they've got the faster computer than your pension fund. That we don't want to have that going on anymore. And we want to have your pension fund and your wealth to stay with you. Now, if you're an economist, or if you're a student economist, and you go and have a lesson, the very first lesson you get is that prices move to balance supply with demand. That is the basic law of economics. If you understand that law, in theory you would understand pretty much everything about economics. But I'll tell you why you don't understand everything. It's because we're not obeying that law. In the shops, if the price is too high, things stay on the shelf. If it's too low, you have to wait for another lot. But if the price balances supply with demand, you have what we call the market clearing price. Now the market clearing price is the price at which the people who have got the very best use for that resource are paying for it. If other people are trying to compete with them and buy it at a cheap price, they just simply lift the price because they don't want those other people to have that resource and waste it when they've got a better use for it. So the market price is the price at which you get the best use of the nation's resources I mentioned earlier. Okay? So that's the secret. We have to have market clearing prices. Do we have that? Is that how the economy works? Let's have a look at lesson 2. Lesson 2, inflation rises. It's going up faster. Interest rates rise. That's what the students will expect. What else will they expect? Well, they will expect that your savings, your investments in government debt will rise, won't they? A bit faster than they did before. And they will think that the cost of a home loan will rise a bit faster, like the rentals do, wouldn't they? And they would think that the currency would fall in value to make the imports that little bit more expensive, wouldn't they? But what do they teach? They teach interest rates rise, savings and treasuries dive. What? That's what they teach, and that's what happens. Home loans, they stay level. Everything else is going up, but they're staying level, or they're leaping up like this and putting your home onto this slide. And that's what happens. That's crazy. You get constant demand for homes, but sometimes the starting price is too expensive and people can't buy them. The construction business goes out of business when there's a demand for homes. That's not doing what it's supposed to do, balancing supply with demand at the market clearing price, where all the homes that are built get sold. That's not happening. And that's the reality of our economies. So we're not getting maximum use of the resources. And we're going to find out a little bit about why. The result of that chaos is that a third of the economy, property sector, is in chaos. Treasuries, there's $80 trillion worth of government debt going the wrong direction. It's supposed to rise because it's used for safe reserves guaranteed by a government, so that as the liabilities of the banks rise, as incomes rise and people borrow more, their reserves rise with them. That's what's supposed to happen. And we've got $80 trillion that doesn't do that, does the opposite. And it's the same with your insurance policies and your pension. How about that? So that's a hell of a big hole in the economy. And then we've got the currency. Half of the world's business prices go through an import-export process. And what happens? The currency price is going like this, and I'll tell you why. It's because you've got a market here for investments, and you've got a market here for trade. Okay? Now, the market for investments actually is much bigger than the market for trade. Much, much bigger. As much as the world's whole annual income gets in and out these markets in a day. And the trade is toddling along trying to get its job done, trying to balance supply with demand. And then there's one price for both. This one is making this one dance like a puppet on a string. And that's why you can't have proper investments across the world. You can invest $1 billion in some enterprise in China, and then the currency price does that, and your $1 billion investment's vanished. Next page, let's have a look and see what we've got there. Let's supposing you were a policy maker and you were trying to balance all those problems. There you are, scratching your head. You're surrounded by rabbits that go in all sorts of directions. And your job is to capture all of these and make them behave so that that doesn't happen. That's your job. What a job. Here's the name of the rabbits. You've got housing, that's in a mess. Savings, that's in a mess. Your currency's in a mess. Your confidence, people's confidence, if they haven't got confidence, they're not going to invest. And they're going to start saving instead of investing. And then there's the inflation that's got to be managed, the stock of money so that there's enough money in the economy to do its job. And then there's behaviour change, which is obviously going to be happening because everyone's so confused. And they get hurt, then they change their behaviour, they stop spending, they start saving. And that changes the job of this guy. And then this guy says something, and that gives you behaviour change. And then you've got interest rates. That affects all the things we've been talking about. All these rabbits go in their other directions. And then we've got sovereign debt. Sovereign debt, is there too much of it? And then they've got to balance the budget. That is why this poor fellow is scratching his head. And if you ask them if they know what they're doing, and if they understand the subject properly, they'll say, no, we don't. There's things we don't understand. And they're quite candid about it. So let's tell you what it is they don't understand. It's balancing supply with demand. The effect on people: confusion, risk, fear and greed, and wealth travelling from the people to the top. How shall we deal with the disparities of wealth and status? One of the people I spoke to asked. He wanted me to write an essay on that to answer the question. Nice title. Why me? Why was it me that created the solution? Well, the Wright brothers, look at them. They're the first people to fly any machine. They had bicycles, they had a bicycle shop, they put wings on, put propellers on, they experimented. Eventually they found out how to control the thing so it didn't crash. Millions of dollars went to the universities, state dollars, millions of them. The media reported on everything they were doing and finding. They said nothing about the Wright brothers. Why is it you've not heard of me? It's the same story. I have skills that these people do not have. I was a trained stability engineer and I was a financial advisor. I knew all these contracts, I knew all the faults, and I urged the industry to change the style of their contracts. They got confused, didn't do it, didn't know the ramifications. They said, oh, the economy is a complicated place. Well, I'll tell you something about that. It's called the complexity theorem. It's a well-known theorem by engineers. It's a well-known theorem by doctors and social scientists. If there's one thing that you're doing wrong in a complex system, you find all sorts of things all over the place that are going wrong. You find all these things going wrong. Yeah, that's what happens. But if you put one thing right, one of those things right, you cut out these 3 rabbits. If you do another one, these 2 rabbits go. These one and these ones go. Now there's a principle in engineering. If you're designing an aeroplane or something like that, you get all of these things to self-adjust, and then the manager hardly has anything to do. That is the design I've created for the world's economies. So, what next? Well, read the book, you'll find the solutions. But another mistake that these central bankers and policymakers make, they get a recession and they say we've got to stimulate the economy, we've got to increase spending again. They go and borrow money, which they don't need to do in order to get the economy going, not with my method, not with my system. And all these sectors of the economy, small businesses, people that make ice creams, hairdos, polish your nails, send you on holiday, make your cars, all these things, they are these sectors of the economy. Then you've got the large businesses, they do civil engineering and build bridges and roads and stuff. And then you've got the debt-dependent businesses, which is your construction stuff, and you've got the non-dependent businesses, which is probably all of these small SMEs and stuff. Now, here they are, all waiting to be stimulated. What do? They go to a large business and they stimulate that one. The idea of the large business is that they spend money here and here, and these people spend the money they've got from here and here and here and here, and these ones spend it. This takes forever. And why weren't they just stimulating all of them in the first place? If you water your garden, am I right? You water the entire garden. Just because it's got a slope on it, you don't just start at the top and water that bit. It takes too long. It's not a control system. If you have a control system that takes too long, you're going to go into overshoot because you're going to overstimulate and you're not going to know when to pull it back. Yes, you just get confused. So why are we going to do this first in Zimbabwe? You may remember when I showed you this original thing, it's had this title, Rebuilding Zimbabwe. Well, that was to attract the Zimbabwean reader. and we'll probably publish that book. But and that's going to be the simplest book. This one is for more the policymakers and economists, but it's for businessmen. Anybody who really wants to understand the economy, will if they read this book, they'll understand it. Okay, Zimbabwe has the best educated population in Africa. It's got resourceful people. It's got unused resources by the billion, lots and lots of mines of every kind. A geologist must have designed the borders because the only thing he left out was oil. He even got gas. So if we restart the economy, we'll get firms who need irrigation working, we'll get mines that need machines working, we'll get all the skills that we have coming back, but we'll have to import some. And most important, the university in Zimbabwe is teaching this. I'm the tutor, and it's available online. Anybody in the world can take the lessons. So when the government decides this is what they want, and they're already talking about it very seriously, I promise you, they're very excited about it, and they've asked me to do this video and this sort of stuff. When the government says they want all these things done, all these changes made to the economy so that we get all these benefits that I'm talking about, which includes financial stability so you don't go down here, and the maximum use of resources and the, all those things. When you get that, we're going to get huge foreign direct investment come into this country, and we're going to get all this stuff moving. And there's another little essay which I wrote and was published in the Chronicle. You can find it if you Google Chronicle Jumpstart the Economy, and that's the Bulawayo Chronicle. And if you read that, what I'm saying is this. I'm explaining that money is actually just a number on a spreadsheet. You look at your bank balance. What is it? It's not gold. It's not backed by gold. It's a number. That's what it is. How do you create a number on a spreadsheet? Like this. Done. Yeah? So we say to the central banks, reserve banks of South Africa and other trading partners, do this, increase our foreign exchange reserves, and we will start importing from you, and you will start exporting to us. Both our economies will grow. We will import all this stuff that we need. We're jump-starting the economy. And you will have a bigger economy, and the money that you've created will go to you to feed your bigger economy because you'll need more money. And we'll have a look into the details of that in a roundtable discussion to see how far we can go. So we will create our own currency. There will not be a shortage of currency in Zimbabwe. There will be no longer any bank queues, and there will be no longer queues for foreign currency. What are we going to do to prevent the government from printing too much money? Well, we've got a firm of lawyers, and we want 2 more firms of lawyers to work on that, change the constitution so that that power to create any amount of new money is taken away from government and given to the nation, given to the community. There's a difference between a nation and a government. The nation employs governments and it dismisses governments, but the nation's interests demand that the currency be safe. We're going to have the safety of the Zimbabwe currency move from the bottom of the pile to the top of the pile. It's going to be the most trusted economy and the most trusted currency in the world. So get ready to invest in Zimbabwe. Thank you.